Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to some more Warpforge. And today I am really excited to be talking about something that I'm excited about because it has just been such a tough mid-season, end of season. I think we've got, oh yeah, I'm literally staring at it, so I shouldn't even guess. 8 days and 20 hours of this meta left. We will not be getting a hotfix. At this point, I'm sure they'll just roll out some sort of balance patch maybe the first week of the season. Sometimes they used to delay it. But I think with how unpopular this has been, and I'm sure the dip in player numbers and all of that, I have to imagine we're going to see some sort of more heavy-handed balance patch coming in. And before I even get into the discussion on that, today we are going to get into, and I really want to shout them out here, Slither's Crute Midrange build. Now, I am still testing an infantry build. I'm still testing a few things. Unfortunately, I do not have the new Warlord yet, but I think the cat's out of the bag that Warshaper is probably just not good enough. Whether they need to make the talent cost 1, similar to Aun'Va, or plus 5 health, or something creative. I think Warshaper and the sort of infantry go wide build just suffers for a lot of reasons, and we'll talk about that later in the video. But I wanted to get an updated towel list out on the channel, out while people are testing things. And Slither hit me up last night and was like, hey, we're probably going to play this on stream today too. Check out this deck. Slither's, I think, was number 8, definitely at least top 10. Excellent player if you don't know them. Sisters of Battle player as well, a diehard if you will. And they've had tremendous success with this list. I have one change that I was testing, the new legendary, the Flesh Shaper. So we'll talk about how that's felt so far. But that's what we're going to be getting in today. Thanks as always for the support on the channel. I'm definitely excited about now having restream to be able to stream over on YouTube more, which is something I was missing out on. But we're going to have obviously the drops on Twitch, so you'll be able to check me out there. With all the drops active, hopefully for the next week or so. I think it's usually a week and a half. So lots of, I think, more exciting or more things to be excited about at the end of the season with the town reinforcement. I do know that a lot of people are worried that now Tau is going to become the menace. Judging from some of the games we're going to talk about today, where our Ultramarines matchups, they kind of struggled to establish a board, and we were able to punish that. I still think that Ultramarines are just top tier. I don't think Tau are going to be able to rival them necessarily in the same win rate, but I do think that they actually have probably one of the best matchups into them now. So I guess before I get too carried away, let's take a look at the deck and get into it, and then we'll go over some battle logs just to kind of showcase what the deck is able to do. So we've got updated Aun'Va. We're going to play heavy hitters, obviously in the legendary departments, such as For the Greater Good, which just can help you set up your board. We've got things like, obviously, Emergency Dispensation, which I think we hit in both of the games we'll look at, and just was an absolute house of a card. And then we're trying some different stuff, and Slither's got some interesting one-ofs, and so far I've liked it. The only change that I made, and we'll see it, I think, in at least one of the videos, is I was missing a second Crutox rider, so I just put in a Crisis Battlesuit, the one with Vanguard and Shield, and just was like another solid 4-drop. But I do like that the Crutox riders are a little bit more aggressively bent with the 2 damage to an enemy. They've got a little bit even on the attack stats, same 5 health though, or no. Crisis Bodyguard has 4 health. Yeah, so you get a little bit of a beefier unit and one that pushes damage a little bit more. And then the other one was, instead of running 2 Firesight Marksmen, which I'm still kind of playing around with, I feel like at times I'm kind of underwhelmed by this card, but I also think Stealth in certain board states and matchups really can make such a difference, especially because it does kind of like a nice 2-for-1 impression with the marker light 3 to an enemy troop, so anything with 5 health is going to be dying when you play this card. But I really wanted to try playing Flesh Shaper. And what I will say about this card, whether I've tried it in this build or other builds, is that I do think that this card is worth the slot. Is it sometimes going to get removed and you don't get any benefit, and they've traded a card or 2 cards for it? Sure. but also when it goes off, it goes off. And then your Warlord has like 4 or 5 attack for the rest of the game. And I think we'll even look at a matchup that showcases that a little bit, just so people can get their fill of Flesh Shaper fun. So let's talk about some of the choices, and I'm sure Slither will correct me in the comments if I'm wrong here. I think some of the drone choices are interesting. Stealth drone, I think, just is kind of always going to be a staple. The card just does so much work for allowing you to sequence really well without your opponent being able to interact. I think missile drone, I'm guessing, is a nice little one of that you can get, a 1-2 punch when you play Devilfish on 7 energy, and then you get to play your missile drone and get that upfront value that can maybe help you stabilize the board or something like that. Almost does like a mini Fusillade impression when the missile drone is able to blast out to multiple targets. So I have felt that that's been cool. DS8 turret, we'll see it in one of the matchups, just the old stealth drone into DS8 turret. Pretty annoying. I don't think it's game breaking, but in certain matchups, being able to just hide your DS8 is really obnoxious. Everyone who's played with or against Tau since release knows that this card can be one of the most irritating things to deal with. So let's talk about some newcomers. We've got one of Kroot Hound. My impression so far of this card is that it is underwhelming. It has not impressed me. Maybe if Warshaper gets buffed to be a stronger Warlord, Kroot Hound will benefit from that buff as an infantry unit. But so far, especially in Ultramarines meta, where they still have plenty of flankers that trade on ranged, Kroot Hound has not been terribly impressive. My guess as the one of is you can play it on 4 energy, buff its health. You are getting 2 units. Sometimes what's really nice, and I think we've seen it in a game, is you can play your Kroot Hound and then lay down your Honored Ethereal and give them Vanguard, so they have to attack them, and maybe that helps you set up. But it's kind of felt fine as just having as a one of. Krutox Rider, on the other hand, I think is just a solid 4-drop. It's a little bit more aggressive than running the Crisis Bodyguard, and it's just got really nice stats, and I don't think you can really complain about it. Relentless Fusillade, I think, still does quite a bit of work when you can mark things with Pathfinder, with the Marksman as well. Part of me wants to run a one of Kion tactics in this deck, but I'm not so sure that it's worth it, so I've strayed away from doing that for now. We've got Stealth Battlesuit doing a lot of work, usually Devilfish doing even more work with some of these new infantry units. And then Firesight Marksman, which I was talking about, I'm still testing this slot. I think there aren't a ton of great 5-drops for Tau. Devilfish, I think, is one of the stronger ones, and same with Flesh Shaper. But I think Firesight Marksman does a pretty good, 2-for-1 impression most of the time. Aun'Va obviously making things a lot easier. And then we come to some of the more impressive cards after Enforcer Battlesuit, which is 2 Krutox Rampager. The Predator Killer himself is out to get them. They are hunting those tanks, and so far it has done a great job. And a tip that Slither had shared with me, right, is if you can bank an early shield, then great. You get to play your Krutox Rampager, put a shield on it on 7 energy, and be able to run this thing into a Predator, and then it's still a 6/2/6 at the end of combat. So that's really nice. Speaking of nice flankers, Lone Spear has performed extremely well for me. It's really nasty when you hit this card with Dispensation and get to play it on 4 energy, because that's pretty early on. There are some board states where this is kind of sitting in my hand, waiting for my opponent to kind of interact with my board. But I think that's fine. Sometimes you can just slam it and be like, all right, this thing has camo, answer it, and it doesn't have flank. But also I love, specifically with Aun'Va, where if you're able to set up a board presence, then you just keep your Lone Spears in your hand, you keep spamming your ability, getting buffs on your units, and then when and if they're able to clear out your stuff with Helldrake Strike, whatever it is, then you just drop your Lone Spear and get your value. But I think the unit has been excellent. Another unit you could throw a shield on and have it punch in and be really impactful. And then, of course, Longstrike, the All-Star, you're playing your generic really good legendaries, your generic solid battlesuit cards, and a couple of drones, for a decent drone package. And then you're just playing some of the strongest reveals, I think, in the reinforcement, which is Krutox Rampager, Lone Spear, and even the Flesh Shaper, which I think gives your deck a little bit of a different angle. So that's the overview. That is what Slither is running, except for not the Flesh Shaper. So you could try running the double Firesight Marksman. So far, I felt like this deck has been, the power level that it needs to be. And it's also got some really interesting kind of lines that you can set up and things like that. So let's take a look at some games. We are going to take a look at 3 wins today. In terms of the battle logs, that's kind of how things shook out. But I still think that you can get quite bad matchups. I was trying an infantry build that got absolutely, where is it? Got completely dismantled by Carib's Eldar, because I think that's still a pretty tough matchup. But I think we'll start with a Varro game here. And I do think that both the Ultramarine games we're looking at, full disclosure, certainly not the high roll Ultramarine draw. But I think I just kind of wanted to showcase, what does the win condition potentially look like? What does it look like to try and establish a board and so on and so forth, and try and actually beat out the Blueberries as much as we all need to this season. So I just, for this hand, in terms of mulliganing, I just feel like Stealth Drone into DSA turret, you can't really go wrong. Pathfinder, my thinking with mulling this in the Ultramarine matchup is that you're not hitting targets early, right? It's really only 5 energy up that you're interacting with their board more. So decided just to run out the Stealth Drone. Could have waited a turn and played Stealth Drone next turn and then played DSA turret afterwards, buffing the Stealth Drone so it maybe could have lived through a Warlord attack. But my kind of thinking is if I can pressure earlier, I think I prefer to do that. And so that's what we end up doing, is just running out the DSA turret to get the stealth. And then I usually like going for chip hits like that once we're starting to establish a board presence and really pressure their life total. Because they can have such swingy turns that you can't do anything about. That can potentially even kill your entire board of Predator. You want to just do your best at pressuring them. Make them, have to really consider different lines of play. So here we get our free 2 damage. Pretty happy to play out the Stealth Battlesuit. Something they can't interact with, right? Because unless they're running the, the Tyrannid Warrior, it's usually going to get its value. So here they're going to get the free kill on the DS8, unfortunately. I'd say in this matchup, DS8's not going to do too much for you. But we actually just got a really nice way of kind of establishing board presence and making them have to answer us. So we just get the homing beacon. We get the free flank trade on their flanker. And then the way I like to play it, especially since Stealth Battlesuit was nerfed in terms of its ranged attack, is just leave it on the board and keep it healthy, right? So now they have to start working on clearing it. I'm not going to trade health unless I really think it's valuable, because I'm just going to get free card advantage that's going to interact pretty favorably against our opponent here. So they have a decent impulsor turn. It's nothing to write home about, but it's helping them establish a board. And so I'm just going to do my best to keep running out, using our home and beacon to our advantage here. So we get to trade our Crisis Battlesuit that has 0 health for their impulsor, which is excellent. We get to bash and clear out their all of their troops here. And then we just keep on trucking, right? And we're not using practically any resources from our hands either, right? So that's really good, because Ultramarines get so much kind of card advantage overall, especially with Varro. And so being able to just have these cards sitting in her hand waiting to use them is excellent. So they get a nice pick on the Crisis Bodyguard, or Battlesuit rather. Or is that what that one is? I always forget what the it's not Crisis, I don't think, right? Oh no, it is. I always get that and the 4-drop mixed up. But yeah, again, we'll just get a free guy, trade there, get to heal up, and it's here that I'm like, I'm gonna snag the shield because when we see this Predator, it's going to come in handy. We've got the Lone Spear in our hand as well. These Vespids aren't really doing too much in this matchup. And then I poke in for 2 off the Pathfinder, because I might as well take advantage of its better attack stat. And, you know, now we're ahead on life, and we've got a board that they have to answer. So I would say this is pretty ideal. We haven't seen a Predator yet either. So, you know, that's not going to happen every game. But I think we played this game pretty well. And then Oath of the Moment, I don't always see in builds. It does a little bit of work here for our opponent. But just the fact that we have this stealth battlesuit on the battlefield, just giving us like infinite value, plus Aun'Va doing the same thing, and just allowing us to keep trading damage on our units, it just ends up being incredible. I think there were a lot of lines here. Could have also run out like a Vespid to punch in, but just decide it's easier between the stealth battlesuit and the crisis to just shield, keep our stealth battlesuit healthy, and take out the apothecary and then punch for 4. So I think there are a lot of ways you could play this, but at this point we've got double Lone Spear in our hand. We've got the Zephyr's Grace. So as soon as something big hits the board, it just should not be that hard for us to keep pressing our advantage, which is what flankers could be so potent at, is just answering what they're trying to do and then, you know, allowing you to stick a body after that. So here we finally see a Predator, and they're going to be able to get 2 triggers with a tactical insight as well. And, you know, if I don't have reasonable answers to this Predator, it is just going to turn the game for them, right? But we avoid taking 4 to 8 damage this turn on our Warlord, which is really important. They've got the Humanity Shield at a time where I'm not so sure they needed to use it, to be honest. I guess maybe that was the only 2-cost card that they had, because obviously we have no board to threaten lethal. And then to add insult to injury, we literally do top deck the Rampager here, which just trades better than the Lone Spear does. And the Lone Spear I'd rather save for when we can get the blast trigger maybe up front. So we just get to heal it, take out their Predator like it's nothing, and move about our day. And I think that's when Fang has enough and packs it in. So again, to be fair in this matchup, I think the draw was not on our opponent's side. And so they were struggling a little bit. But that's, I think, kind of the sort of board state that you want to set up. Okay, and then I might go back to this Harken game because that's got some fun stuff. But let's get some of the Ultramarine kind of showcase out of the way, because I think that's what people want to see, is like, can they really compete with Ultramarines? And I would say first impression of Aun'Va mid-range control, I think it can. I think it definitely can. Infantry, I don't want to put out a build yet because I just don't think I have something solid. This hand is exactly what I want to see. Dispensation to fetch something juicy. Crisis Battlesuit, totally fine 3-drop, can play it on 4, give it an extra health, and then Rampager to answer their Predator. Nothing to see here, just a perfect 3-card hand. So I think we also got quite a bit lucky. And we're against Snowfire, played against them quite a bit, obviously a very good player. Yeah, and I feel like this game kind of plays itself with what we're doing. So I'm still waking up here, so I've got a little bit of coffee. Also, I have a fun little story to share once we get further into this game. It wasn't fun at the time, but I think it's a little funny now. So yeah, we dispensation into Lone Spear, which is just so disgusting, because Snowfire actually has the 3 energy impulsor and is probably so excited to just like keep using their abilities and just get infinite value. But we get to play Lone Spear on 4 and just kill their impulsor and their unit and hit them for 3 and then hit them for 2. Because I know that it's going to be pretty tough for them to clear out the Lone Spear without trading health. I'm happy to trade a bit of health too. Yeah. And I think Snowfire plays this well. They want to keep their life total high. So they do have to trade both of their flankers though. So in terms of card advantage, we've gone 3 for 1 because they've taken 3 of their cards, which is Impulsor plus 2 flankers to kill. But we also killed the unit from the Impulsor, and we also did 3 damage to their face. So it's kind of like a 4.5 for 1, which is pretty disgusting. And here I opt for the stealth drone on the Crisis Bodyguard or Battlesuit. I'm never going to get that right. I'm so sorry, everyone. And just set up a board that they can't interact with, even if, the Predator comes out. I mean, there's not too much I could do, but I've got the Rampager, coming in next turn. And here, Snowfire obviously has an awkward turn. They probably got maybe like Repulsor, Executioner stranded in their hand. They don't play anything with 3 energy. And then this Crisis Bodyguard would be a Crutox Rampager. Had I had the second one, I got my rare wild card this morning in the campaign. And this is perfect, right? So they can't really interact with our board. We're getting free value off of Aun'Va's ability, and then we've got plenty of stuff to answer whenever they start establishing a board presence. And here, Snowfire plays Armored Support. I have not seen that so much from the Ultramarines. I personally wouldn't play it, but maybe Snowfire's found it to be good in the mirror. I could kind of see that. But definitely into something like this, it's far too slow, because basically the game is over after this attack. Right, and I'm just going to use Aun'Va to push damage with Storm of Fire, because I get to re-stealth stuff. I have a shield on the Crisis Battlesuit, so the game is pretty much over after this attack. And I actually end up timing out here after my Aun'Va attack, because at this exact moment, there was the biggest cockroach I've ever seen in my apartment, ever, running around the floor while my cat just sat there and did nothing. So I think I did miss out on 3 damage I should have done. But the game's pretty much over, even with Dreadnought. Obviously, they're at 6 health. We pretty much got lethal. And the reason we attack there is because with Stealth Drone, we take them to 3. And then Aun'Va plus Storm of Fire is lethal. So if I didn't have a massive cockroach that I had to murder at that point, I think we would have had an even cleaner win. So again, we didn't play against nearly the ideal draw for Ultramarines. However, one of the ways that I feel like they are weak is the setup. And so if they have kind of clunky and awkward setup, it is going to be hard for them, especially if you establish a board that then when you play a flanker is going to answer what they're doing. So I really think that you just want to keep pushing your advantage as much as you can. And I think, honestly, I didn't take a look at this prior to the video. Let's just fire up the Harken game. I know this is not a matchup you're going to see that often, but I think this is where we get to see the power of Warp Storm for us, but also, I think, Flesh Shaper too. And I kind of wanted to showcase some of the new stuff. So, obviously with the Blast, like Stealth Drone's maybe not going to do that much work. I don't want Long Strike early. And Stealth Suit, again, like can get blasted, but I'm pretty fine keeping both of these. I'm still learning how to mulligan with this build. It's been a long time since I played any Tau. So I literally played them on release, then they were broken. Didn't pick them up till now. So, but here, yep, we're going to just go for, I think it's just Zephyr's Grace most of the time. Especially you get into Harken, just trying to keep my life total as high as possible. It's also 1 energy. Also, I'm not sure why they didn't attack us there. I think that was kind of a mistake. So we Dispensation, we grab a Stealth Battlesuit, which you get to play on 3, which is kind of nice. And yeah, and then just take advantage of our homing beacons and all that good stuff. Oh, but right, this is actually, they just clear this, don't they? Yeah, they get the Blast and then they get the Mark. Pretty nice for them. Nice answer. We actually end up taking quite a bit of damage, I think, from this Legionary, which is unfortunate. Look at the camo and the regen, which is really nice. And then I think, yeah, just the Crutox Rider allows us to, try and trade a bit of damage here. And I opt for Ethereal Supreme. It's possible that it should have just run out the Zephyr's Grace to try and guarantee my Crutox Rider living or being able to trade maybe next turn. But my kind of thinking is like if Legionary has what it has, like Crutox Rider is going to die. Yeah, we've got the Gifts of Chaos. So it's pretty likely that our Kurtox Rider is not going to do too much. They trade some really nice damage on us. But thankfully, this is a scenario where Firesight Marksman pulls its weight, because we just get to play it, mark the Legionary, and clear it. Because we definitely can't leave that thing on the board. But we're also just getting such crazy value from Warp Storm. So like, it's funny, like when you're not playing certain matchups, you forget like how swingy they can be. But I think it's playing Tyranids and playing Tau into Chaos and getting Warp Storm like almost always gives you, like, I would say a couple percentage points in terms of winning. So luckily they kind of low roll the Helldrake Strike because they have to trade, and then our Firesight Marksman's still here. So that ends up being pretty nice. And then Art Ethereal, just running it out, you know, making them have to attack that Vanguard and just trying to buffer my life total as much as possible. Feels pretty helpful. And I get to play the Stealth Drone, which allows for my Honored Ethereal to helpfully hide, and then I can keep setting up these Vanguard units to try and protect us, because we are down 15 health, right? So it is still rather scary. But they have to punch the Marksman, and that just doesn't really get them that far ahead. So we're pretty happy about that. And now we're picking up some more drones here. Just nice. Run out the Pathfinder. My positioning here is a little... Oh, right. I was saying that's going to trade. Yeah. All right. And then Marker Drone feels a little weird to give the Vanguard. But again, kind of thinking, all right, as long as I can stay healthy, you know, that's probably good. But I probably should have put Pathfinder on the outside and had that, because putting him on the inside just allows me to take damage. So I think that was just a misplay from me. Should not give this angle, right? I should just keep putting Vanguards on the outside. So good lesson to remember how to actually play with Honored Ethereal against Harkin. Honestly, it's funny. Sometimes I won't see Harkin for weeks, and then sometimes I'll play against it like 5 times in a row, and it's like such a bad matchup for me when I'm testing something or whatever. But doing pretty well here. Allows us to basically trade our almost dead units to clear out the plague. What is this guy called, Aaron? I forget. The plague dude. And then again, I mispositioned this. I'm like, oh, let me get double Vanguard. I just don't need to do that, right? I can just put it on the outside, heal my Ethereal, put something on the inside, buff that. I'm literally just giving them an angle to attack. So it's funny watching this back. I played this so terribly. And this would be so much better. I'd have my my Devilfish on the outside with the armor, with the shield, and then my Ethereal would still die, but this would not be dead. It would be on this side. But now it gains flying, and they're just going to punch in to try and knock some health off the fish. But this having 5 health and then the armor and all that, it is kind of hard to deal with. Oh, and then they have Execution, which I actually really think is pretty nice in Harkin. I haven't seen that as much. Here, we've got Stealth Drone. Got our Stealth Battlesuit. I'm holding Long Strike for some more problematic unit, which might be a little greedy here. But I'm like, okay, I can clear everything out here. That's not a problem. And I can just shield myself, try and keep my life total somewhat high. Yep. And then just chip in there, get the splash damage. And it's at this point, as long as they don't have Helldrake Strike, like, we should be fine. Helldrake into, like, Dracnian would actually be pretty terrifying. But still, the fact that we can nab a shield pretty much every turn now, it's not going to be that big of an issue for us. So they attack, they get the splash damage. But is this lethal? This is 6, 10, plus 3 is 13, plus 4 is 17? Yeah, so we don't have lethal quite yet. Yeah, now I'm like, all right, let's just run out the long strike, and then we'll get some health, and then get a free shield, and then we should have lethal next turn. We're also going to get to stealth the long strike. Yeah, and then we don't trade any health, right? Because obviously, if I trade health, then they get to blast this. So they did get Dark Apostle. And I think they get double Vanguard here? If I'm not mistaken, which was actually a pretty nice response. But I think it just doesn't end up being enough. So yeah, they blast out there. Good attack for them. Take out 2 drones. Put some damage on the long strike. But because it's stealthed and it wasn't actually directly attacked, it doesn't lose the long range. Play Flesh Shaper. I was like, I'm pretty sure this is the game I played Flesh Shaper. It just was very late. You get to pick this off, buff everyone, pick this off, buff again. It's pretty nice. Now our Warlord gets to trade pretty aggressively there. And then we just go armor and shields. Yeah. Just go Sense the Stone. It's obviously harder to remove things. And then shields, I think myself. Still just more concerned about my health than anything. But yeah, Flesh Shaper has got, play him on 11 energy, give him some armor, take out some stuff, and then we got some beefy units. But yeah, to me, I think Flesh Shaper is just another problematic legendary that you have to make your opponent deal with. So I kind of wanted to try it out. Actually get the execution on Long Strike, which is pretty good. Kind of hanging in here. So they get to only take 2, blast 1 damage, which just at this point doesn't do much. This is 11 minimum that we can crash with. And that should just about do it, as we just play a Lone Spear out with camo, so it's can't really target it. And now we're even on life, so we've obviously made it to the late game. And then we can just shield, hit them for 11. And shouldn't die to too much. I trade 4 and then I put the shield on. And that should just about do it. But yeah, I mean, I think if you make it to the late game, it should just be really hard for your opponents to answer your ability to stabilize. So, and then I think in this scenario they're able to clear out pretty much everything. But then, our Aun'Va has 4 attack. And they're going to have to trade things, right? So that means that we're going to get the Flesh Shaper buff. And then obviously attacking here to maybe try and get a score of Vanguard. So we get the +1 again. We get the +1 again. And they blast to kill both. I mean, definitely, like, Vivimus played this out really well. And this does end up getting the Vanguard. But we've got second Lone Spear here, which is just guaranteed lethal. And that will do it. Flank blast. Ba-boom. So yeah, I hope these games, were a little bit informative. I feel like we kind of steamrolled super hard in most of them. But honestly, I feel like I wanted to at least just kind of show, and again, shout out to Slither for being in the top 10 and sharing this list. They reached out to me yesterday, which was super nice, and were like, hey, are you looking for any build, or reached out to me recently about builds. And so I just was super excited to highlight this a bit. I definitely want to play around with stuff. Still feeling like I'm a little underwhelmed with Kroot Hound. Sometimes I feel like one marksman kind of feels good. I really do think that Flesh Shaper, from when I've gotten to play it, seems to deserve a slot. Everything else, though, I think feels great. Even the one of coordinated engagement, I actually think is a nice touch and has served me pretty well. So this is a build I would just say, like, no holds bar. Like, if you've got this, yes, you're going to have to learn it. There are like certain things that you're mulliganing for, and like I'm still learning it myself. But you're going to do well with it. And, for those who like really want to make the leaderboard, and I definitely do, and I got to usually make at least 3750, 3800 to be pretty safe. This is probably the deck I'm going to do it with. I've been really not enjoying climbing recently, but this is like a new, different flavor. It's got some new hotness. So this is probably what I'm going to be running and streaming. Thanks so much as always for sticking with the channel, sticking with the videos and the content. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers. We're approaching 650. It's been a strong and steady climb. So I appreciate you showing the support throughout. And as always, I'll probably be trying to get out some more Tau content over the next week or so. So definitely be on the lookout for that. We'll have different builds. I'm going to try and get infantry to work. Haven't quite cracked that yet, but we'll be along for the journey during the streams as well. So other than that, I will catch you guys next time.